If you are diabetic, probably you've heard Dalia is a superfood which is heart healthy as well as diabetic friendly. But is it really so? Is Dalia really diabetic friendly, or there are more science behind that? In today's video, we'll discuss about that. So if you are a diabetic or you wanted to have a good heart healthy diet, stay with us till the end. As a practicing cardiologist, I bring science-backed practical tips every week, and kindly subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. In today's video, we'll discuss about in various segments about Dalia. We'll discuss first about what is Dalia. Second, we'll discuss about what are the benefits of Dalia and concerns regarding Dalia, whether it is diabetic friendly or not. We'll discuss about the composition of the Dalia and how it compares with other grains like white rice or roti or against millets, and we'd end up with some practical tips regarding Dalia use. So what is Dalia? So Dalia is basically broken wheat. When wheat is broken into small fragments, although it maintains the outer bran layer, unlike the wheat is pulverized and make into a powder like in atta or maida. But in case of Dalia, which is not powder form, so it maintains its structural component, maintains the outer bran layer, so it maintains its nutrients is with various vitamins, minerals and fiber, unlike that of wheat based products like atta and maida, which are basically devoid of any fiber, devoid of most of the vitamins and minerals because it has been made into a powder form. So Dalia is being used as a breakfast cereal. It is being used otherwise also in the lunch or dinner as a diabetic friendly diet, which is used as a savory dish, and sometimes we use Dalia as a sweet dish as well. So to understand whether Dalia is good for diabetics or not, we need to understand two concepts. One is glycemic index and second is glycemic load. So what is glycemic index? Glycemic index basically means how fast your sugar raises following a particular type of meal, particular type of carbohydrate meal. What is the rapidity of the rise of sugar? The more rapid the sugar rises following a particular meal, the higher the glycemic index it is. So glycemic index is divided into low glycemic index, moderate glycemic index and high glycemic index. High glycemic index is more than 70, moderate glycemic index is 55 to 69 and low glycemic index is less than 55. So we need to avoid high glycemic index food. So rice is and instant oats are high glycemic index food, and cornflakes also, where the glycemic index is beyond 70. While wheat based products like atta basically falls into the moderate glycemic index, where it falls between 55 to 69. While less than 55 glycemic index is a low glycemic index, and Dalia falls into the category of low glycemic index. That means if you take Dalia, the rapidity of the rise of sugar won't be that rapid, it will be slow rising sugar. So that is about glycemic index. So Dalia has a low glycemic index, it's around 41, so it's definitely less than 55, so it falls under the category of low glycemic index. That means it doesn't raise the blood sugar. The rapidity of the rise of the blood sugar is not rapid, slow rising blood sugar, which is beneficial for diabetics. Next concept we need to understand is glycemic load. So I would try to explain in a simple term by giving an analogy. Suppose you have a car. So you're riding the car has a speed. So the speed of the car, which you can see on the odometer or speed meter, is your glycemic index. The more the speed, more the velocity of the car, the faster the car runs, the faster is your glycemic index. While the distance covered by the car is your glycemic load. Suppose you have a car, you're driving very fast, but the distance covered by you is small. Suppose you're driving at the rate of 50 km per hour, but you have covered only 1 kilometer distance. So although the speed is very high, but ultimate distance covered is short. So the glycemic index is high, but the glycemic load is small. On the contrary, suppose you are driving very fast and you have covered a long distance also. You are driving at the speed of 50 km per hour and you have covered a distance of 20 km. So now your speed is also high and your distance covered is also longer. So that basically, if you can put it as a comparative analogy, your velocity is high, that means your glycemic index is high, and your distance covered is more, that means your glycemic load is also more. So I'll give you another example. Compare watermelon and rice. Both watermelon and rice has a glycemic index of around 70-72. That means both causes significant rise. The rapidity of the rise of sugar is the high in both watermelon as well as in case of rice. Following a watermelon intake or following a rice intake, your sugar, the rapidity of the rise of the sugar is high because glycemic index is high for both. But the glycemic load of watermelon is low because the carbohydrate content of 100 gram of watermelon is only 5 gram. So the glycemic load, the absolute content of sugar in watermelon is low, that is around 3. While in case of rice, the absolute content of carbohydrate per 100 gram of rice is around 30 grams. So its glycemic load is higher. So its glycemic load is around 29. So although watermelon and rice both have high glycemic index of around 70-72, both can cause rapidly increasing blood sugar. But since watermelon has low carbohydrate content, it has low glycemic load, ultimately the amount of sugar raised will be very low in case of watermelon because watermelon has only 5 gram of carbohydrate in 100 gram of water. But in case of rice, rice has much more carbohydrate in 100 gram. Compared to 5 gram of carbohydrate in watermelon, rice has 30 gram of carbohydrate in 100 gram of rice. So not only the rapidity of rise is higher, but absolute increase of sugar also is higher in rice. So in case of rice, the glycemic index is high and glycemic load is also high. But in case of watermelon, glycemic index is high but glycemic load is low. So sugar rise won't be that much in case of watermelon intake. So that is the difference between glycemic index and glycemic load. So if you want to take a food in case of you are diabetic or not even a diabetic also, ideally a food should be having low glycemic index and low glycemic load. These are the best option. And worst option would be high glycemic index and high glycemic load. As we have compared out here, the comparison between white rice and Dalia. White rice had a high glycemic index of more than 70 and it has high glycemic load also around 30. While Dalia has a low glycemic index around 40 and glycemic load is moderate around 12, something like that. So if you compared to white rice, Dalia is having a lower glycemic index and lower glycemic load. So what do you mean by, when do you call it glycemic index low, moderate and high? That we have already discussed. More than 70, 55 to 70 and less than 55. Rice falls into the category of high glycemic index. Wheat like atta falls into the category of moderate glycemic index, and Dalia and millet, they fall into the category of low glycemic index. While glycemic load, if it is less than 10, is low glycemic load, 10 to 20 moderate glycemic load, and more than 20 high glycemic load. As we have given in the example, rice, which is glycemic load of 29, that means it has a high glycemic load. So rice has both high glycemic load and high glycemic index, which needs to be avoided. While in case of Dalia, it has low glycemic index, but the glycemic load is moderate. But in case of millet, it has low glycemic index and low glycemic load. So both are low. So the millet is the best option when it comes to glycemic index and glycemic load. Both the glycemic index and glycemic load are low in case of millet. But in case of Dalia, glycemic index is low, but glycemic load is moderate. So hope you have understood the concept behind glycemic index and glycemic load. As I have discussed, our diet should have a low glycemic index and low glycemic load food. So how does Dalia fare in comparison to various other grains? When you compare Dalia with other grains like white rice, roti and millet, where does it stand? As we have discussed previously, white rice, as shown in this chart also, white rice has both high glycemic index as well as high glycemic load. Second, wheat based products like roti, atta products, they have a moderate glycemic index and moderate glycemic load. Third best option is Dalia. Dalia is having low glycemic index around 40, but his glycemic load is moderate. So low in glycemic index, Dalia, but moderate in glycemic load. While the best option, even better than Dalia, will be millet, because millet has low glycemic index like Dalia, but unlike Dalia, which is having more moderate glycemic load, millet has low glycemic, especially millets which are having high in fiber like barley and millets. All the millets are not the same because there are various types of millets. So those millets which are having higher fiber content like barnyard millet or brown top millet or foxtail millet, they have higher fiber content and thereby their glycemic index is also low and glycemic load is also. So that's how the Dalia compares with other grains. Compared to rice, white rice and wheat based products, definitely it's better because both glycemic index and glycemic load of Dalia is better compared to white rice and wheat. But when you compare Dalia with millets, in this comparison, Dalia glycemic load is bit on the higher side. So millet all in all will be having a better nutritional profile as far as glucose, glycemic index and glycemic load is concerned. So this we have shown in this chart, the white rice, roti, Dalia as well as millet. So the next question comes, is Dalia safe in diabetics? As we have started our discussion with, because most of us believe that diabetics, we should take Dalia because Dalia doesn't raise the blood sugar. The straightforward answer is it depends whether Dalia is safe in diabetics or not. With whom you are comparing. If you are comparing Dalia with white rice and wheat based product, definitely Dalia will be better because Dalia's glycemic index is much lesser compared to white rice and roti. But if you are comparing Dalia with millet, the glycemic load of Dalia is higher. That means per 100 gram of Dalia will be having more carbohydrate content compared to millet. 100 gram of millet will be having lesser absolute carbohydrate content compared to 100 gram of Dalia. 100 gram of Dalia will be having higher carbohydrate content compared to 100 gram of millet. So all in all, if you have to answer your question whether Dalia is safe in diabetics or not, it depends. If you are taking rice and roti all throughout your life and you're diabetic, it's better to switch over to Dalia because Dalia will be having low glycemic index and low glycemic load, and chances of blood sugar excursion following a Dalia intake will be much lesser compared to if you are taking white rice and roti. But if you are comparing Dalia with millets, definitely millet will be having an edge over Dalia as far as controlling the blood sugar is concerned, especially the millets which are having high in fiber like barnyard millet, brown top millet, foxtail millet, kodo millet, etc. So millet actually has an edge over Dalia as far as glycemic control in diabetics are concerned. By having discussed about the role of Dalia in sugar control and how it fares with other types of food grains, are there any potential concerns with the Dalia? Yes, there are few concerns. The first concern is the gluten part, gluten sensitivity. Dalia is also basically made from wheat. So it's the broken wheat. And since wheat products contains gluten and quite a few of us are gluten sensitive. So gluten is basically a protein which is present in the wheat. And since Dalia also contains the wheat protein gluten, and those who are having gluten sensitivity, if we take gluten in the form of wheat, in the form of Dalia, then we tend to develop various health concerns. What are those health concerns we'll discuss. And second potential concerns with Dalia is pesticide exposure, because wheat based products requires a lots of pesticide, especially pesticide like glyphosate, which are quite toxic to human beings. It could lead on to various health ailments including cancers also in long-term exposure. So these are the two concerns. One is gluten sensitivity and one is pesticides. And millet score over Dalia over these points as well. Millet score over Dalia over glycemic part as well, because millets tend to raise sugar much lesser compared to Dalia, but millets also are gluten free and millet do not require pesticide during their cultivation. So in that aspect as well, the millets score over Dalia. So what are the signs of symptoms of gluten sensitivity? Quite a few of us are having gluten sensitivity. So those who are having gluten sensitivity, they tend to develop various abdominal symptoms like dyspepsia, bloating, indigestion, acidity, all those IBS like symptoms following the ingestion of any gluten products like wheat or Dalia. And sometimes they have headache or poor memory, concentration, fatigability, and sometimes this gluten can lead on to various other manifestations also like arthritis, rashes, joint pain, and so on and so forth. So the gluten sensitivity features could be various, could be GI features and could be extra GI features like arthritis, skin rash, fatigability, poor memory, all those symptoms are there of gluten sensitivity. So pesticide residue, as we have discussed, is a common problem with any wheat product, especially Dalia. And glyphosate is one of the common pesticide which is used, which could be quite dangerous for human being because it could be carcinogenic also. So since Dalia is is a non-processed type of wheat, and atta and maida are more of a processed. So by the time of processing, when you are milling, atta and maida outer cover gets removed. So the pesticides are also removed during the milling process. But since Dalia is not processed, the outer bran layer remains intact. And in this bran layer, the pesticides tend to accumulate. So if you have to choose Dalia, choose an organic Dalia, because organic Dalia will be devoid of the pesticides. So you can use safely organic Dalia. So this chart shows various pesticides which are being used in various wheat products. Common, which I have already discussed, are glyphosate, and there are other few common pesticides also which you need to be mindful of. So that's why whenever you're choosing Dalia, if at all you have to choose Dalia, choose an organic Dalia. So once again, whether the question arises whether is a harmful or healthy diet option the Dalia in case of diabetics. So it depends. It could be beneficial because it's rich in fiber, rich in low in glycemic index. It helps in decreasing the blood sugar, controlling the appetite, helps in the weight loss, but it's higher in the glycemic load. So absolute amount of carbohydrate in 100 gram of Dalia is a bit higher, although the rapidity of rise is on the lower side. So the portion control is important. So you have to take limited quantity of Dalia, take an organic Dalia. And if you're gluten sensitive, do not take Dalia. So portion control is something which is very, very important. So final advice as far as Dalia is concerned is that for diabetics who are not having gluten issues, choose an organic Dalia. If you at all have to use Dalia, best option would be a millet, because millet scores over Dalia as we have discussed previously. So choose an organic Dalia if you have to at all choose a Dalia, but portion control is important. Take small amount of Dalia and you have to wash it thoroughly and soak it overnight so that all these pesticides are being washed away. But those who are having a gluten sensitivity, better not to continue with the Dalia, because Dalia contains gluten. So you can choose a gluten-free option like millet. Millets are gluten-free. You can choose other products like amaranth. You can choose another grain like quinoa. So all these options you can choose from. And always consult your healthcare if you are having any health issues after taking some particular grain. So all in all, if you have liked our content, kindly subscribe to our channel. And if you like our video, you can go back in our channel and see the video on millets.